All right, let's talk about how to read a cash offer contract. These can be intimidating. Sometimes they're a couple of pages, sometimes they're 40 pages. Hopefully, as we walk through this, Daniel, with you, we can get a basic idea of what to expect so we're not thrown off when we're offered a cash offer on our house. And so walk us through a contract, sometimes known as a purchase and sale agreement, a PSA.
That's right. And what I'll say before diving into this is
Yeah.
there should be enough paperwork that it's legitimate and it answers all the things you need to go through on a real estate transaction, on an offer. However, be very cautious if someone has a 40-page contract. Chances are there's stuff buried in there to tie you up as a seller that's just sketchy and you should stay away from. So uh, ours is 9 pages long. It's really simple. I think the Washington normal real estate one is like 37 or 38. So just keep that in mind. If it's super complicated and feels intimidating, it might be that way for a reason. Like, pay attention to your instincts. All right. So ours, I'm just going to walk you through it, and I'm not going to go through every single thing. Just going to break down the main things it should have. Let me click over to, let's see. There we go. Perfect. All right. Hopefully, here, I'm just going to switch to here so they can, oh, that doesn't really help. All right. So here it is. Maybe I can make it bigger. Let's see here.
Does that help? That's working. That's going to work. That's going to work. Yeah.
There we go. All right,
that's
cool.
Better.
So thank you for your patience, everyone. So it's going to say who this is between. So this is between the two parties. The contract is between the assignee or signer. So the buyer, sorry, using the wrong phrase. The buyer is going to be here and the seller. It just needs to be really clear who's buying, who's selling, and what is being sold. So with an address, this is going to be your just regular street address. Now, it's absolutely critical that there is the legal description. It's going to go here, or there's going to be an addendum or something like that. The investor or cash buyer, they're responsible. If they don't know where to put that, or if they just put like an APN number, that's not good. This should have something by meets and bounds or some other kind of system. That is the actual legitimate legal description of your property. If they don't know about that, that's a red flag. So this is stating,
just Google legal description of your own address and you can find it, right?
Sort of. You can look it up that way. Usually, you're going to go to your like county assessor's office, or every county has a way of doing it. And so, for all the counties we work in the Northwest, we have all that stuff figured out. So, it's going to talk about the property. It's going to define what the opening is. It's going to define the price. Okay, so we've got who, we've got what price. Okay, purchase price. Earnest money deposit right here, EMD, that's going to be what they put down to show you that they're serious about it. Again, in general, about 1% of the purchase price. And then it's going to state after the EMD is put down, what will they owe to get to that whole purchase price. Okay, just make sure. And every page needs to have initials, just like a normal contract, so that it's saying, hey, everybody sees this and signs off on it per page. If it just has one signature, I've seen this, by the way, that's why I'm pointing it out, and it's really sketchy. It's just like one signature, 17 pages down. It's like that doesn't tell you that the seller and the buyer both saw everything on every page. So that's another detail that's important.
Got it.
Make sure you go over everything. Earnest money deposit, it's just defining, when that's going to be due, in what amount. Financing, this is very important. If it's a cash buyer, this box should be checked. Cash, okay? If it's seller financing or traditional financing, it's going to specify how they're paying. Inspection period, it's going to define what that's for and how long it's going to be. Access to property, basically it's going to go over, hey, is the property going to be vacant? Is it going to be occupied? And it states very clearly what those terms mean. Is it tenant occupied? It's going to spell that stuff out. Escrow agent. Okay, this is really, really critical. If it doesn't have something on here of like, hey, who's the not governing body, but who's the what's the entity that's going to take care of closing? So your title and escrow company, that needs to be on your agreement. So ahead of time, this is actually going to take place at a legitimate title company. So including contact information and all that stuff. If they're not sharing that with you, ask for it. Close of escrow, closing date. This is probably one of the most critical things in the whole contract. When is this going to close? Okay, this is your finish line. make sure that's in there and that you have agreed upon that.
Yeah, I've seen
Escrow,
some sellers. I've seen some sellers be confused about when they're going to get paid, or do they get the earnest money deposit at the beginning, or in the middle, or the
Yep.
end? Generally, it
Yep.
all happens on that closing date, right?
Absolutely. So 99.9% of the time, no money is going to exchange hands until it's all said and done. So you're not, as the seller, you're not going to get like 10 grand up front. I've seen that on some marketing material and I just shake my head at it. In real estate, nobody gets paid until the deal is done. There's just too many ways for it to go wrong for that not to be the way to do it. So just know, have an expectation. I'm not going to get paid as a seller until this is all done. That happens on the closing day. Escrow and closing fees. So it costs money to sell a piece of property. Who's paying all that stuff? Are we going to split it? Is it all me? Is it all them? That needs to be spelled out. Prorations. If I owe half of a lighting bill or something like their electricity bill, who's paying that and when's it going to happen? That's pretty standard stuff. Some of the stuff I can skip over. Oh, debris. If my house or my property has a bunch of stuff all over the place, am I cleaning it up? Are they cleaning it up? Appliances, marketing, solar deliveries, investor disclosures. So we have this investor disclosure on ours, letting them know, hey, we're an investor. We're not representing you. We're not your agent. We are representing us. That's just, we put that in there to be very clear. We're buying the property from you. And there also is language in here to encourage you, hey, run this by someone who is strictly only on your side. Like if you have a real estate attorney that you want to run this by, go for it. I absolutely encourage people to run any contract through legal counsel anytime they're doing something like this. It's worth the extra couple $100 to hire somebody and have them look over it for you and ask questions. Why not, right? It makes sense. Just think of it as insurance. Remedies, if something goes wrong, how are we going to handle it? A lot of this stuff kind of gets a little bit into the weeds, but it's kind of things you need to have in a contract. Representation by seller. So, this contract, this basically says, what I'm saying is true about the property is to the best of my knowledge, what's going on. This is going to take hours to, well, not true. This would take us a couple of minutes to go through, but basically all the things that a good contract should have, time, when things are going to be done, what notices, how we're going to communicate, spelling out how that's going to be done, necessary documents. So this is, saying the entire agreement. If something is found wrong, it doesn't negate the whole agreement. Just things like this. Let me see if there's anything else in here that I really need to point out. These are some things that, as friendly as we try to make it, you still have to have some of this stuff in here. Boilerplate stuff. Absolutely. It's a binding contract. This is a real contract. It states that in there. And then acceptance. This is a part I would point out to you, folks, is there a timeline on this contract? There should be. It's not, here's our offer and it's valid forever. Pay attention to this for two reasons. One, if it's not long enough, that's odd. Like if they're trying to pressure you, this is valid for 27 more minutes. Make up your mind. That's not good. If this is valid for 2 years, that's kind of weird. They didn't fill something out. So a reasonable amount of time, like on the open market, for example, if you're putting your house on the market, typical real estate will provide, agent will provide you like 24 to 48 hours to accept an offer. That's an active pending transaction. For something like this, we generally allow a couple days for people to look it over, ask questions, and make up their mind. Yeah, that's pretty standard there.
Daniel, I want to point one other thing out on there. When you say people are feeling pressured, I have heard from sellers before that they've been pressured by wholesalers, people that aren't actually going to close on their property, but are going to go find another buyer, that they've said things like, oh, we're only buying, 4 properties this month. And my finance office, they just use these funky excuses why you got to sign it now. Did you sign it? Did you sign it? Did you sign it now? And anytime you're feeling that icky feeling about that kind of pressure or those kinds of excuses, I think feel free to push back and ask somebody else for help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Follow your gut on that. If your instinct's telling you this isn't safe, there's a good reason for it. Any other conditions? So if there's special things like, hey, I need to maintain access to my shed for 2 months after closing because it's going to take me extra time to move out all my motorcycles or whatever. That's an actual.
My llamas, my motorcycles and my llamas.
I've never had llamas, but I have heard motorcycles. But yeah, anything else that's going to be in the contract is going to be here. And then again, it's going to have everyone's contact information. The title company is going to need this anyways. So just by good practice, we put it in here to make it simple. And then every single page is going to have a buyer initial and a seller initial. And then finally, the signatures and dates and printed names of everybody. Now, we do this for convenience through software called DocuSign. It's just, electronic signature. That's okay. Don't let that scare you. I'm sure there probably are some sketchy softwares, but if it's a mainstreamed one like DocuSign, that's legit. That's definitely okay for documents like this. It makes it a lot faster, especially if you're not in proximity to the people you're working with. Again, we work all over the Northwest, so we can't always drive to everywhere we're going and do it in person. So
I want to say one more thing about this. Make sure you communicate with your buyer. Everybody who's on the deed needs to sign this, right? So if you don't communicate clearly with your buyer and it turns out, hey, your brother-in-law is also on the deed or your spouse is also in the deed, it's important that you get that clear up front. Everybody who's on the deed is going to sign the purchase and sale agreement. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't work if everyone who needs to be on it isn't. It can't be like it's a void and null contract. You don't want that. So I had this happen today. I was on a call with a lady who has a sister and they're part owners after their mom passed away. So if we were to buy their property, both of them need to be on that. It's not just one of the parties involved.
Right.
I would say if you have any questions about this kind of stuff, reach out to us. Consult an attorney. Also, they're great resources. They can be scary, but they also can be very helpful. We would be happy to help you answer any questions like this. We even review contracts from other folks sometimes. They'll say, hey, someone's buying my house and, this is my contract. Will you look at it? And sometimes we can help them and go, hey, you might really want to ask this question. That's of concern. So we're available as a resource to you as well to help you through these. Awesome.
Love it.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.